What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And I mean welcome back literally because this is a second look at Happy Campers. Uh, yes, I did just review this. I'm reviewing it again because as I was kind of hoping by maintaining a positive attitude about life, this film does have audio description now available. It exists. Hopefully it gets passed around to platforms so that I'm not the only person who's ever heard this audio description track before. That would be great. Um, but I did promise to re-review the film. It's not the first time I've done this. I need to do it actually a little bit more. I would love to vacate my channel eventually of reviews of non-audio described content and then just have like a lot of audio described content. That's like a long-term goal. So I'm glad that I'm able to keep this here so that I can talk about Happy Campers with audio description. Uh, I believe it's done by Free Play Media. So I'm going to say that. We're going to put that out there for the world. I feel like I even recognize the narrator's voice. I wish I could place it, but I feel like I could recognize this narrator's voice. So Happy Campers is a documentary that's now available for you to watch on video on demand. And it's about a community that is facing imminent destruction because a development, they've been bought out for development rights. They're going to build something here. And it's really just sort of exploring the history of this community, this campground area where these people, live and have fun, and everything kind of comes together. And they've been here some people have been there for, just an unholy amount of years, really, like 20 plus, and all the people that they know. And this is their little slice of life, this little slice of heaven, this little Americana, and they are really sad that this has to end, and the stories that they tell, and sort of the final days, and you get this little look, a little glimpse into their life. So now that I've seen this movie twice, once without audio description, once with audio description, I have perspective. I have interesting thoughts. So what director Amy Nicholson does here is sort of a very narrow lens at pretty much exactly what I was saying, which is let's talk to the people whose lives are about to be destroyed. And just that. There isn't really even a focus on necessarily the greater community around them. Like what are they close to? Like what is the largest city that they're close to? Like where do they go to get groceries? Like it really is just the campground. It's not like how they interact with like the townspeople or the city folk, like wherever they get their stuff from. It just kind of focuses only on this little area, this little slice of heaven. And uh, it's not even like 100%, I would say, clearly defined as to where it is, which I thought was really interesting because it almost gives you that like Anytown USA feel to it. Like this could happen to you too. Development could be coming for you. And I love that the development is non-specific too. Like they don't even like know. There isn't like they're building a casino here. There's nothing like that. There's just development is coming for us all. So like some of the choices, they feel weird because they sort of put you at arm's length, but at the same time, when you don't include specificities like that, at the same time, they kind of make it like it's coming for you. You're next. Like these may be the initial happy campers, but there could be more if you're not paying attention. So, almost like there's a little bit of a like a secondary moral that you don't even really realize that you're being told. And I was like, it's kind of an interesting um downstream or it's sort of like residual effect of the film is that because you're not really sure where this is. You're not really sure like what's happening, who bought the property, what are they developing, uh, any of that stuff. And I understand why you would leave that out because obviously this film was shot and completed and wrapped, and these people are already. I mean, it takes them all the way up to where everybody's leaving, right? And they're taking their stuff and they're taking their stuff down, and you see them the stuff they want to keep. They're unscrewing from the walls and stuff, whatever. And they're burning some stuff in the fire so that people can't take it or use it or whatever, because they know that their stuff is going to be leveled. So, they really do kind of strip the campgrounds. So there's really nothing left. So this can't be like an activism documentary where we then write in to try to save the campground, to be angry on their behalf. That can't really exist here because it would be like after the fact. Like I feel like something's already there. I don't know what that is, but I feel like they've obviously already raised this and they either are currently building something or something has gone in here. So doing something, turning this into like an activist documentary where we go, no, this is bad, stop, who do we write to, who do we call? Pointless, you know. And at this point, even doing something like a GoFundMe for the people who were displaced also kind of feels pointless because it's probably been years and they're somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like they had to go somewhere. So they're probably fine by now, I would think, most of them anyway. The ones they're still alive. There's an in remembrance at the end that the audio description picks up, which is quite long, but it could also just have included a lot of the residents who were not even necessarily in filming, but were just like people who had been part of that campground. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they reference people who, some of the people who are interviewed reference people who are no longer there, no longer with them. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like most of the people who have been interviewed have since passed away. Because it's a pretty substantial list, and it would mean that virtually none of them survived moving out of the campground. They're kids. They're like little kids in this film. I mean, they have to still be. I'm assuming they're fine. So that would be the argument as to why you keep it sort of specific. There isn't really much of a before after here. There isn't much of a wider scope or what is this thing and oh, who are the villains that are doing this to us, and exploring that angle of it because you can't really change it. It's done. So all it would make you do would be to rally against a company, and then people would be angry against this company that's already like the thing is already done. Whatever they built is there. So I don't know. So the focus is to just stay on the human stories, and if anything, it becomes a cautionary tale for people who are maybe in a similar situation where they have a campground somewhere, and it's like check your stuff to make sure your campground isn't, the people who own the land aren't about to sell the rights to somebody, and then you lose your spot forever. Because I think basically people are like leasing the spots in campgrounds. I think that's how they work. They don't like all own this land. So it's even unclear as to like who specifically owned the land that everybody's on the campground of. Because again, rallying against that person is maybe not the direction that you want to go. And once again, by keeping it off the table, you give it this Anytown USA vibe. Which is leading me into the thing about the audio description. Now, because I posted a review, which led to a conversation between myself and Amy about audio description for this film, which led to me getting a track for audio description for this film. I'm aware that she let me know that they made a selective choice to not individually name every single person that's in the film and instead go with like a woman and a man, like those kind of descriptions. So by doing that, you also have these sort of like generalizations. Everything is sort of like dehumanized in a little bit, but by doing that, it also then it feels like it's almost following that same narrative of this could happen to you too, which sort of feels like the undercurrent of Happy Campers, which is when you leave out some of the specifics, uh, you're either doing it because the specifics would ruin your movie, where they're like, I don't think this is what's going to happen, but they're like, well, they took out the land because they built a hospital, like or something like that. Like they built low income housing. You know what I'm saying? Like they built something, and you're like, oh well. I mean, that sucks that they had to leave, but when they build something there that's like actually useful to the community, um, then instead of like just I don't know, like a resort or a casino or I don't know what else would go there, a theme park, I don't know, something, but uh, that's sort of the other side of that. So when you keep it generalized and it is a man and a woman, um, then it's like I'm a man and you're a man and you're a woman and well, this could happen to us, It's still it gives you that vibe where this could happen to you tomorrow if you're not paying attention. So um it's not intentionally an eye-opener, and it's not like necessarily meant to shock anybody, but it is sort of the unintended consequence when you keep everything sort of in this specific sort of set of limited knowledge. I don't know how else to say that. For audio description wise though, and for what the things that didn't work for me, because I always like to talk about the audio description track. That's what I like to do. So this track that 3Play has made, some of it, the stuff it does really well. Like I was really optimistic right out of the gate because like the first couple that's talking, like immediately described as a white couple, and I was like, oh wow, we're gonna get racial definition in this film. Look at that. It's so unusual that we get that, and then it doesn't really happen ever again. So are they the only white couple? This would be generally we get defaulting when when you describe like the one like black couple and then like everyone else is white. That's usually how it happens, is like people aren't given definition, and then uh every everyone else is. It doesn't usually happen to white people is what I'm saying. Like it doesn't usually happen where there's like the one white couple and then everything else is like in a sort of defaulted mode where it's like, well, I don't know what race they are, but we did define the other one, so there must be everything else. So the thing is, I don't think that this is just like everyone else is people of color except for like the first person, the first couple. So I think what ended up sort of the unintended consequence is, well, the first couple's white, so everybody else must be white. So this is just a really white campground. That's where we're going with this. I think that's the what the picking up is the putting down and picking up from that statement. But I thought the description of sort of the exterior was good, like the it gave a lot of really good vibes as to um, just sort of nature around it, really specific things in and around, uh, like the smaller the item, the more specificity they could give it. Like toys in the lawn and stuff like that were really good. There were like surfers or something that were painted on the wall of. I mentioned before that there was this not a character. There's an actual woman who had painted, and she was talking about these acrylic paints. She came in and she's like, well, I always wanted to give something fresh. And there was like some people with some surfboards. So, but the odd thing is I never really felt like I had a depth of what these people's homes looked like, or even how big they were. Like, I still was kind of left with, huh, at the end of the day, I was like, are these all just campers? I'm still like, the guy that has the naked room, I'm like, in a camper, you don't really have like rooms. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been in them. I've been in campers and RVs before, and they just kind of like go back through. And you kind of sort of, you have the possibility for, like obviously you have a bedroom, you can cut off the back, and like your front area is usually like your living space with like a kitchen and maybe like a sitting area, the dining room table area. It's for like a camper, right? The bigger that you get, whatever you're putting down mobile home wise, you get more space. So that's why I'm wondering, I'm like, is it a double wide? Does he have a double wide? Everybody else has like a single? Does he have a house? Does he like, what else does he have? Like, what has he expanded upon? Did he start off with a double wide and he just started building upon it? There were just still some definitions about like what these houses actually look like. I noticed that uh, there definitely wasn't like any sort of, I want to say, class shaming. I don't know what else to say about that. Nobody ever felt poor. Nobody ever felt like that they were living in any sort of a shack or that was completely avoided. Everybody's homes were respected as if they were the castles in which these people believe they lived in. Even the home with the possum, like I was so interested to know. I was like, what is the living situation of this house? But instead of getting like a reality description of this house, I just kind of got like a passing knowledge about it. It just, I never really fully understood. I was like, how does the possum come in? Where is this happening? I'm still deeply concerned. Like, it's such a weird story. They're like, yeah, this is where the possum comes in, and it just, no, I would move. If a possum was just coming in my house at night and I couldn't stop it, I would move. I'd be gone. Um, so like I just wanted to know, like, what, maybe did they show the hole where it comes in? Like conceptually, what is it? But you would never know if any of these people's homes look like hot messes. And they kind of suggest that maybe they were. They're like, yeah, this used to be a party house and nicotine was, just like all over the walls and now it's not. But at the same time, I mean, those are just words that are spoken. So I have no idea. And that's sort of the context. And you could say, well, that's part of the anytime thing. And it's like, is it? That's also part of the individuality. That sort of is what separates people. And one of the things about doing a man and a woman is that, so blind people, I don't know if you know this or not, but we don't have facial recognition ability. So sometimes what's really good for us in film is to have names to be able to go off of, to be able to follow individual characters. Otherwise, we have to use our superpowers of memorizing everybody's exact vocal tone and matching them up so that we know, oh yeah, that was the person who was speaking earlier. Oh yeah, that was that guy who was talking about that earlier. So everything just kind of gets, even though I've seen this film twice, I'm still not sure how many people were talking in the film. Like, I'm still not sure how many people actually got interviewed for this because a man and a woman just continue to appear. And I know it's a stylistic choice, but I'm showing you the other flip side of that choice, which is for our community with our audio description. When you leave off the names and everybody's generalized and nobody has a name, we don't get to know that. Now, there's a guy, Joel Snyder, who wrote the book on audio description, and he would say that we shouldn't be using names unless they've been used within the context of the film, which is bizarre because, again, this is sort of like the most extreme example of that, except for some of the names actually are said in the film, so you could actually use them. They do mention some other people's names, and you can hear them like calling out to people. So there are people who like say names in this film, but this is sort of like the most extreme example of why Joel's way of thinking doesn't work, because then everybody is a man and a woman, and then you never know who anybody is, and it's really hard to follow specifically like repetitive, like, oh, we're checking back with this couple, we're seeing what we talked to these people earlier. I don't know if you remember, but we did. Uh, and I like, sure, sometimes somebody has a really specific voice and you're like, well, obviously it's that person because they do. But here, actually, a lot of these people sound relatively the same. Like they all have almost the same regional speak, whatever they, they all have sort of a generalized, a little bit of a southern accent, a little bit. So I'm trying to say, I don't know. I'm sure somebody who studies accents, American accents better can get really into like, is that Appalachian? Is it like where are these people from? With specificity. But I'm just going to go Southern and just generalize it a little bit more because I'm not that good with accents. And that's what we get. And it's not like, even though you hear like, well, people they come and go, and they come here for vacation, they leave, so they could like theoretically be coming from anywhere to this campground. There isn't like that that like New York couple that comes in with that like strong like New York accent, or that Minnesotan couple that comes in with that strong Minnesotan accent, where it makes it just like really easy to follow them. Everybody just kind of sounds relatively the same, like they all come from the same place, and uh, it did make it a little bit hard to follow because everybody was just a man and a woman. Now, some people had definition and description. Like there was a guy that was out on a pontoon boat, and he was husky and he had a beard, and I was like, oh, the husky man with the beard. But it's not like he's going to always be referred to as the husky man with the beard. And that's the other thing about audio description, is that when you have somebody like that, you end up, every time you see them, if you have them, I'll go Curious George route here. If you have the man in the yellow hat, he's going to be referred to as the man in the yellow hat for the whole movie. Like if nobody ever says his name and they're following the Joel Snyder hand guide on audio description, they're going to be named that the whole film. So pontoon boat guy with the beard and his huskiness would be the husky man with the beard for the whole film. So that's how we would track them as a character. But when everybody just becomes a man and a woman for a lot of it, it just, yeah, it kind of, it became a little hard to follow. So in that way, but not prohibitively so. Like I was still able to get a lot more with the audio description than I was able to without. Like there were whole things that happened. Like the whole bonfire stuff I didn't quite pick up on what it was they were doing, that they were literally like taking apart things and burning them. Like there were certain things that were happening that just didn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, and like the surfboards being painted on the wall, that was the exact thing. I mean, this woman's talking about like, I'm painting on my walls. It's like, well, what are you painting? I have no idea. Oh, that's what you're painting, okay. So yeah, there's stuff here that is given direct context as a result of audio description, which made it easier to understand, which made me connect with these people more, which made me connect with their homes more. So, and 3Play produced and balanced an audio description track that sounds good. It is not, there's no ducking, there's no anything here. It's just, everything just lies well. It doesn't trample any dialogue. It's a well-made track. So the only thing I would say would have been, if I was QCing this, I would have been like, I don't know what these people's homes look like, which is odd, and it's getting a little hard to follow the people because not everybody has enough distinguishing characteristics or is given enough distinguishing characteristics. Every once in a while you'll hear somebody, but it doesn't feel like that lasts. Like there was a woman who had like dyed blonde hair, or like I don't want to say platinum blonde, or it was a certain kind of blonde, like a bleached out blonde or something like that, that her hair color was referenced. But I noticed it was referenced in like one scene, and I was like, well, I guess she's not in anything else because, it's not like when they talk to her, they don't talk to the platinum blonde. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of, you keep your general, that's how audio description actually works when they keep the names out, is that generally the thing about you that makes you definitive against the rest of the cast is the thing that we start knowing you as. We don't actually track an entire cast full of a man and a woman before. That doesn't really happen. It's usually still the husky man, or the man with the baseball cap, or the red-haired heavyset woman. I don't know. I don't know what these people look like, but that is sort of how it follows them a little bit more, a little bit better than that. I like this movie. I do kind of wonder what obviously this is getting pushed around for possible awards consideration, and I kind of wonder who's going to nominate what for what. I've never really fully understood documentary branches before, and like where they go with things. We always seem to be at odds every time I see a list from the Oscars, and it's like the short list, the Oscar list of 15 docs, it's always missing documentaries that I fell in love with in the past year. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know. And I mean, they see everything. They see stuff that nobody's seen. They see stuff that's just being submitted and hasn't yet opened. So who knows? I have no idea whether or not Happy Campers has an awards future ahead of it or not. It could. It's not. It's outside of the genre that they seem to hate the most, which are celebrity documentaries. Documentaries about individual celebrities, which they typically do not nominate, and it's also not populist enough for them to hate it. So it's not a documentary that has resonated with audiences on a wide scale to where they would need to turn away from it. So who knows, maybe. But I do like Happy Campers. I think it's a good documentary. Some of the choices maybe are not choices I would have made. I could say that about both the film and the audio description. But I think overall, even though I wouldn't have made those choices, they lead to this sort of interesting, like I said, Anytown USA description. For me personally, I personally wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about the world around them. I wanted to know more about why they were being displaced. I wanted to know more about who was displacing them, what was going in there. I wanted to know more about the homes and what they look like in the audio description. I want to know even more about the campground and going out into the water and stuff like that. Like what are we talking about here? We're painting pictures of surfboards. Can you surf? Can you actually surf? Is that an actual thing? This doesn't seem like a high surfing community. I feel like it's not really a surfing community. So yeah, I want to know more about the people and everything. So uh, that that's I think I would have given more of that if it was me editing. But I think there's still an argument to be made that this works as is too, but for an entirely different set of reasons. I just want to rally against something. I do. I love activist documentaries. I love knowing why it should be pissed, and like at who and what for, those are my kind. Like, I love that. I love being able to be like, well, Campbell's soup, damn you for building a factory on top of these people. Like I love that's what I want to know. So I don't know what it is, but whatever. I love that it's unknown too, so I can put anything here. I can just be like, well, what did they put there? I don't know. They Oprah has a new home there. She bought it out and she just lives there. I don't know, which makes it great. So for a fully different reason. So should you watch Happy Campers? Yes. Hopefully with audio description, if you're part of my blind and visually impaired community who watches this stuff. And I think, yeah, on VOD. Not every documentary needs to be an activist documentary. I'm like half joking. I do happen to enjoy them, but I also recognize that doesn't need to be every single documentary. We would be so exhausted if every time we turn on a documentary we felt like angry all the time. At least this is not that. So there's something to be said for that. But anyway, I'm gonna give Happy Campers an A-. So I finally get to grade this film in a way that I feel like is reflective of the full experience instead of like a generalization of being like, I think I would like this movie, but I'm not really sure because I don't have audio description, so I'm lacking context. Could the audio description have done more? Absolutely. Absolutely, audio description could have done more. And I don't necessarily prescribe to Joel's way of thinking about audio description with the whole man and woman thing. I'm very against that. I'm very much pro name. So much so that anytime I have the opportunity to talk to anybody about America Ferrera's character going the entire length of Barbie without ever picking up a name drives me up the wall. She got an Oscar nomination for a role in which in the audio description track she never has a name. She is always referred to either by her job or as a mom. Like, they never actually call her Gloria, even though she's written as Gloria in the credits. It's very bizarre. So that's the most extreme example of why that formula doesn't work. And it's not even a spoiler. Like, calling her Gloria would change nothing except make it easier and more respectful to follow her character. And that's the thing sort of here is like, knowing these people's names doesn't really change anything. If I'm like, oh, well, Jim and Pam, of course, they're together. And then obviously I watch The Office because there's no reason I would have put those two names together otherwise. It just makes it easier to follow them because I don't have facial recognition, so I don't know who I'm looking at. I don't know who's on screen. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.